You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
This is Randy. In the future, water will come out of the tap carbonated.
This is Melanie. And in the future, the older music will lose its copyright, and music will be awesome again.
This is Jesse. In the future, the IRS will use puppets to perform audits in an effort to make it less frightening process, but will ultimately make the whole thing feel even more demeaning when Elmo wants to see your receipts from the past 5 years.
We're going to jump into the poll list.
Yeah.
Since we have Melanie here at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know how this will be edited, so she might disappear for long periods of time and come back at different points in the episode.
It's like unpredictable time travel. Woo!
Which really sums up all time travel.
Yeah.
It's kind of true. Before we do that real quick, I'll just say right now, and this is probably because of me, but I tried to get other people to vote. Right now, the poll list pick for next month, the leader is Batman 0 year.
And that's different from Batman Year Zero?
No, it's 0 year. Because right? Yeah. Because they wanted to change it up because it.
I have zero idea.
Because what? Who?
No, nothing. I'm just gonna keep going on that. I have zero clue why it's called that, or what it's called, or.
My theory is it was to separate it even further from Batman Year One.
Oh.
So they didn't.
But don't worry, guys. We'll zero in on this before next time.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what we'll be talking about most likely in month 1 from now.
In month 1?
Yeah, since we're just going to switch them all around.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. However, this month we read
.now.
Poll list .now.
.now. Swagger.
I love that swag is still a thing. Okay. We read Saga Volume 1, as in the little Volume 1, not the massive book one that Jesse had.
Mm.
Yeah, I was just like, I think this is more than I'm supposed to read.
I'm glad you messaged me about it before you got past. I mean, of course you could have read past it, but I'm glad you didn't read the whole thing and be like, so we're talking about all these issues, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, and I did go. I think I'm into chapter 7. Yeah. Yeah, I started into chapter 7. I was like, I think I need to stop soon. So, yeah.
So Volume 1 covers issues 1 through 6 of Saga, which is published by Image Comics, written by Brian K. Vaughan, and illustrated by, hold on. I was not totally prepared. Where's my...
You did pretty good, though.
Do I not have Google Keep on this phone?
It is Fiona Staples, if that's what's correct on the spine of this massive tome.
That's a nice looking hardcover. It's like oversized and... Yeah,
there was a Amazon deal around the holidays where you could get any one book for 40% off or something, and I was like, that looks incredible! I'll get that. And then I had no cause to read it until now.
I had read. We picked up Volume 1 of the trade paperback some time ago, and I had read half of it, so the first 3 issues, and then put it down for whatever reason. Mm. But Melanie is totally caught up on the entire series.
Yeah, I'm correct.
So this will be really confusing for her.
I believe she reread it.
I did. I reread it. I did entirely reread it, but I thought last Sunday we were doing it. I thought that was this Sunday, So I really quick crunched it And then, I was like, so then when he's like, oh no, we're doing that next Sunday, I was like, oh sweet, then I can actually take my time and like, actually read it.
So she was prepared for this last weekend.
Well, I'm better prepared this weekend right now.
So yeah, where should we start on this, guys?
Start the beginning.
At the beginning.
I'm sorry.
So this whole thing is like a flashback, kind of, right? Because it's narrated by the little girl.
Yeah. I think that was...
We should do like a synopsis. How do you do a synopsis? Because it is like, as I understand it, because I'm only in book 1, it is all like the story of this little girl's life as told by her via flashback.
Which, not knowing where the story goes, I thought was interesting narrative. I guess it's kind of like we mentioned the last regular episode. It's definitely a sci-fi fantasy story.
Yeah.
Which I really liked.
Yeah, me too. They do it really well.
Uh-huh. Because you've got the sci-fi, there's, sci-fi technology and interplanetary war, but you've also got, different races you've got horned humanoids
that do spells.
And then you've got robots with guns and
ghosts and
ghosts.
like trees that can turn into spaceships or
dude, Rocket Ship Forest. That's like the perfect blending of sci-fi and fantasy right there.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
A summary would basically, the basic setup is soldiers from both sides of these two warring armies get together, this couple, and have a baby, which is also kind of a cross. Are they races or different species?
I'm not entirely certain. I mean,
But it's a winged person and a horned person.
Well, they come from there's the planet and the moon are at war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it seems like they decided it's no good to fight on their homeland.
Yeah, because if either one gets destroyed, then the other is screwed.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, we're going to outsource our war to all these other little crap planets and let it be fought there and let them take the damage.
Yes.
Which is very interesting and also really crappy.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Star Wars though too, if you think about it, because I don't think much of the battle happens on Coruscant in Star Wars. We don't see it on Coruscant. The only time we see Coruscant in the original trilogy is when they contact the Emperor. I think.
We'll agree with you.
Yeah, so Star Wars and Saga, same thing.
and there's bounty hunters
not at all. Yeah.
It does have that space opera, big space war thing going on.
But also with swords and magic.
Yeah.
And ghosts.
Yeah. And a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading this and thinking about what we're going to talk about, it's Brian K. Vaughan. It's very adult.
Yeah.
And my favorite lines in the book aren't anything I could say on this podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they'd be totally Grawlix, of course. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But even you open the first page and just what she says, as she's like, and you don't know that she's like, that first page is just a close up of what's her name? What's her name?
Alana.
Thank you, Alana.
Okay, yeah.
She's in birth, or she's giving birth, and you don't realize she's in...
I'm sorry, I was taking a drink when you said that. She's in birth.
She's in birth. She's birthing. She's birthing. And you don't realize that because it's a close-up of her face, and the thing she says, and that's how the book kicks off.
Yeah.
And then you realize she's in the middle of giving birth, and so that kind of makes more sense, but...
Well, even the cover of the book, and I don't know if that's the cover of the volume, but it's basically breastfeeding.
Yep. That's the cover of the trade paperback.
And so it's like, right off the bat, I was like, okay, I'm digging this compilation. It's a pretty progressive vibe right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and to touch on like the language, like I was saying, some of my favorite lines they're very dirty. It's got a lot of strong language and it's explicit, but it's also like very real. Like it's not necessarily just to be shocking. It seems like that first thing that like I was saying, she says on the first page, seems very real.
Yeah, I know plenty of women who have given birth, and they have said basically that exact same thing.
Yeah. So, it doesn't shy away from being dirty, but it's real at the same time.
Yeah, it's one of the things.
I feel like there is a certain level of shock value in the introductions, though. I'm thinking about the different characters and how they're all introduced, and a good percentage of them are kind of like really shocking and unusual ways to introduce a character. Like Prince Robot the Fourth.
Yeah.
First time we see him.
Yeah.
At the very end of the volume, we meet some key characters that I pretty much spoiled for Andy.
That's all right. That's okay. He did.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I guess there is particularly with sex, there is some stuff that is just kind of explicit to be explicit. I guess it doesn't have to be there. But it's interesting.
Well, but they put it in there, I think, in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not like it's gratuitous or anything. It's just like, oh, hello.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they're in, I'm thinking of the robot one. The Prince Robot, sorry. The fourth. So they're, it's not just them having intercourse. It's also showing the whole, the screen image thing. And it brings up the whole, he's scarred by war and whatnot. So, I mean, it's shock value, but it
also shows you that the robots are basically, their bodies are just like humans. It's very strange to me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like they have human regular, was it physiology? Or whatever.
And yet, can he turn his arm into a gun?
He did at one point, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so they're not I don't know the whole story on them yet, but
I don't know that they ever, I don't know that they ever really
get into it.
Although, I'll say, and this might be slightly spoilage, I wonder about their screen sizes sometimes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that a 22-inch? Is that
if
they walking around with a 12-inch screen all day, or 22? Because that'd get really heavy. Is that cathode ray tube? Because it looks like cathode ray tube.
That's one thing I did want to mention also is the screen, how they use his screen. It's an interesting, tool to show exactly what's going through his mind, but at the same time, it's not just a writing tool. It also other characters can see it.
Right.
And it creates an awkward. At least once it creates an awkward situation in this book where that lady soldier, I can't remember her name offhand, that is accompanying him, Prince Robot, sees it.
Yeah.
And kind of an awkward moment.
Right. Yeah, well, I would imagine if your thoughts just flashed
on your face, literally,
it would create quite a few awkward moments.
It's kind of like blushing, like when your poker face cracks. That's the only time we ever see anything flash. Is when he can't collect himself.
Yeah. It's not all the time, but it's, when he cracks up a bit.
Yeah.
Or that one point where it seems he overreacts in a situation towards the end.
Yeah.
And you see the flash of a baby rattle.
Yeah.
And so that gives you what's going on in his head at that point, and how that situation is affecting him.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the writing.
Yeah, me too. I like all of the characters. They're even the bad guys are cool. I like them all, and the good guys are not too good. Everybody, I like all of the characters.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's not black and white for sure. It's not just stereotyped characters for the most part. They all have different shades. And even the spider lady.
Yeah.
At first, she's if you're along for the ride with the couple, she's a villain. But then at one point you're kind of oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the other bounty hunter, You know, you kind of...
Yeah, him too. He has the humanizing moment or two.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that was... Yeah, they go hardcore too.
Uh-huh.
The art is really nice too.
Mm-hmm.
And super consistent.
Mm-hmm.
This book's won several awards.
I
Well,
knew it was popular. I didn't know how much stuff. Though.
Those big... Oh, I can't remember them offhand, and I think they've even come up in the past.
Like the Hugo? Is it?
Yeah, the big...
It's a Hugo winner, isn't it? I think it has to be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It wins some major award almost every year, it seems like.
Yeah.
And anytime somebody talks about, like, you know, great ongoing series, current great ongoing series, Saga usually gets brought up.
Mm-hmm.
It's generally well received.
Yeah.
And I believe a pretty big seller for Image.
I would imagine so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the... It's
got to be up there with Walking Dead, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's got to be one of their tops right now.
Mm-hmm. Anymore, it's hard to call Image indie, but like Walking Dead and Saga, I think those definitely challenge like Batman numbers and stuff like that. The DC Marvel numbers for sure.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's won some Eisners too. It won a Hugo in 2013, and then it won Eisner in 2013 and 2014.
There you go. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for looking that up. I meant to do it earlier. I didn't get a chance.
I feel like it's got a lot of like social commentary that I should pick up on, but I don't because I'm just like, oh, it's just a good story.
Oh yeah,
you know,
sure.
Like I'm too stupid for it.
Right.
There's more going on under the surface that you're just not picking up, but you know it's there. You're just not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense.
I think any good story does that, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it doesn't have to hit you over the head with it. It just gives it to you.
A fantastic world building right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a good sense without going into like huge passages or anything. It gives you a good sense of the world that they're existing in and the effects of the war and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, the daughters kind of narrating this, using that is an interesting narrative device, particularly this early on from the point of view of you don't know if most of the time if her parents are going to get out of this or where they're going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting.
Right.
And also I think at times they use it slightly misleadingly.
Oh yeah, they do.
So.
I mean.
You have future knowledge.
I have future knowledge, and.
In the future.
Well, at the point that I'm at, she's probably like a toddler.
Oh, okay.
Let's say.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
And she's still, narrating it, and they still do that all the time. They'll be like, and that was the day that whatever happened. But then it's not like the devastating thing that they act like it was going to be. It's like some stupid thing.
Little hooks.
Yeah.
Use it for little hooks and cliffhangers, and then just be like, hey, put this away.
I'm like, oh no, what happens? Oh god, I gotta find out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does keep you, it's really good about, making you want to read on.
Mm-hmm.
Does classic, comic book little kind of cliffhangers at the end of each chapter or issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it's real quick establishes characters that were interesting to me.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry, I wasn't just trying to spoil stuff. The part of the reason that I brought up that at this point in the story so far, she's like a toddler because she's the narrator. So I wonder if they are planning this out until she's an adult. And then at the end we meet her that's saying all this. Because if so, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll take a really long time to get there.
When I was curious if they just did a huge time jump and all of a sudden she's adult, or
not yet.
If this. Okay, cool.
They're up there in numbers too. How many issues? Well, it's been going for 3 or so years now.
So she's probably about the same age as how long the comics been out.
Okay, interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about if they're going to do a big time jump too, but I kind of like that so far. At least they haven't.
Oh yeah. Well, they use that too often in comics anymore, so I'm glad to hear that it isn't that way.
I like the setup of the horrors.
Yeah.
The horrors in the woods and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really good. Kind of a red herring.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I like that quite a bit. Just trying to think of other things I enjoyed about it.
Was there anything we didn't enjoy about it, though?
Yes. The creepy leg face ladies. God, that weirds me out.
Oh yeah, I think they were supposed to be though. I mean, like, yeah, that was disturbing. You're right.
Those chicks are all legs.
Yeah, ew, what is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
ridiculous eyes and teeth.
Oh man,
That creeper that
She's got legs.
She's got legs.
She's got legs.
Yeah, and that definitely made that place like right off. It's bizarre. Like, ew, this place is wrong just because those ladies walk out.
Mm-hmm.
It's all legs and a big head.
And then that whole scene with Lion Cat, where it's just like, well, since you're going back to the ship.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Lion Cat too.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah. Such a great cat character.
Yeah, and they use it so well.
Mm-hmm. And you know, if cats had superpowers, that'd totally be like one of the ones that they had.
Yep.
Just to be like,
yeah, right.
Just to be more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You're like lying.
You're lying.
Little things about the characters, like that guy, that bounty hunter, not the Stalk, that was the Spider Woman, the Will.
Mm-hmm.
And also that the bounty hunters like have the as part of their name.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. But little character touches where he gets in a little tight spot and he's always like, think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just little things like that.
Yeah, I gotta get going.
Okay. So, what are your final thoughts on Saga, Melanie?
I think it's awesome and I shall continue to read it.
I know not long ago you were reading a newer issue and you're like, why aren't you reading this?
Yeah. Yeah, because
it's really good.
It's good. But I'm like that with several comics, actually, with you.
That's true.
Walking Dead. Baby, you know how hard it is not to spoil stuff for you?
I know. You almost do.
I know.
Particularly when we watch the show, you're like, oh, are you going to read the comic? I want to tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when stuff does happen, I'm like, that was what I wanted to tell you that one time, except it wasn't him, it was this person, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, you know what? I will be reading Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah, they changed that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Saga's great, everyone should read it. And you guys have a good podcast. Hopefully I'll be back before it's over and can join again. And have fun with your old Batman.
Yes, old Batman.
Old Batman.
Okay.
All right. I actually, oddly enough, didn't have as much to say about Saga as I thought. It's just one of those that's it's really good, and
yeah, it's solid. It doesn't feel like it flubs ever.
Yeah,
you know, like even the things, you know, like we said, or Melanie said, you know, what is something you didn't like about it? I didn't like that because it was uncomfortable. The creepy head girls on the sex planet. But at the same time, like, that was really well done because I think it was meant to be creepy and uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Sets up that mood.
It's like, man, it's just pitch perfect. I think the writing is just really well done. I think they must really think this out. The one question that's probably would have been best for Mel is I wonder how good they are at staying on schedule with something that's as tightly written as this is.
Are you talking the release schedule or keeping the story on track?
Yeah, like release schedule, because like Ultimate Spider-Man was really well written, and they would hit these spurts where, you know, Bendis writing everything for Marvel for a while there. It would, you know, like you wouldn't have Ultimate Spider-Man for a month or two.
It seems like they've been pretty consistent with it. I couldn't say for sure if they've had delays or not, but doing the new release lists and also keeping an eye on that for Melanie, because she, you know, likes to keep on top of. That's one of the series she's after me to track down for her. It seems like they're pretty consistent with being on schedule, which is, yeah, like as tight as the writing is, and also Brian K. Vaughan. It's not like he's not working on other things. He's one of those guys.
Oh, sure, he's a name.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems like they're pretty consistent, I think.
I kind of pull for Image. You know, like I like Image. The story of their beginnings and all that, and so like they kind of had that skyrocket to notoriety, and then all of a sudden they kind of hit they hit as high as they could, and that seemed like they just really plummeted for a while, but they've kind of stayed as an industry standard. Not as big as the big two, but there. They've been there, and they've got staying power.
And I would say,
which is good.
I would say, I mean, the numbers probably wouldn't agree with me, but I would say they're right up there with the big two in terms of like I mentioned, it's hard to call them indie anymore because, I mean, even if technically that's the correct term, because they get just about as much coverage and press and sometimes more acclaim than a lot of the books that the big two are doing. And it seems like when people talk about how, in terms of quality of story, that it seems like we've kind of got like, not new golden age, but you know what I mean? Like there's like, it's a good time to be a comic book reader. A lot of times it's Image books that get mentioned is for like just top notch stories. And they really do have a lot of good books that, get, good acclaim coming out for the past couple years.
Right. Oh, well, was the most recently Humble Bundle did another Image Humble Bundle, and it was like, there's another one I need, which I don't. Speaking of which, we did the whole Archie Afterlife with Archie. Right now, Humble Bundle is doing Archie. Nice. As their Humble Bundle, so you can get Afterlife. If you're interested in a whole lot of Archie comics, then it's probably a good way to go. Otherwise, you could probably save some money and just get Afterlife with Archie.
Oh man, that is I have not continued on Afterlife with Archie yet. Kind of been waiting.
They've only released two issues. So I read the first one. I read issue 7, and it was awesome. And I have issue 8, and I'm just waiting, I just need to get around to it. But I also kind of got to that point where I was like, no, I want to wait until they release the whole thing and read it as a volume, just like I did the first volume, because that was kind of a rad way to read it.
And that reminds me, talking about Image and indie comics a moment ago, it seems like Image and some of the smaller publishers, I'm not sure what kind of monthly numbers they do on their single issues, but they clean up on trades. It seems like a lot of readers of that kind of stuff trade weight.
Sure.
I know those trades do really well. Oh, I guess the one last thing, I mean, this is kind of dragging on the Saga thing. The one last thing I wanted to mention, the humor. Like, I mean, it's obvious, I think, from how we were talking about it, that there's a lot of humor, but there is a lot of humor in it, and it is genuinely pretty funny at times.
Oh yeah. The funny bits are funny, the scary bits are scary. And sometimes they play off of those two elements pretty brilliantly, because like you said, the setup for the horrors, you're genuinely afraid of them because you don't know what's going to happen. And then you see, like, you get a reveal and it's like, oh, okay. And then you just roll with it. And it does a really good job of that, where once you understand the world a little bit better, then you just press forward with it. What can you say? I would recommend it too. And I've only just barely gone beyond volume 1, but I think it's probably something I need to read more of, because it leaves you with a pretty good cliffhanger at the end of volume 1.
Well, like I said, I had read through the first half of it before, and like, I'm not sure why I put it down and just didn't pick it back up. But this time around, I restarted at the beginning and read through it, and then by maybe for me the hooks really come in on that last half, but by the end of it I was totally into it, and I kind of had to stop myself from reading on, just because then I was worried I'd confuse later stuff with what we're supposed to actually be reviewing. But
sure, yeah, and that was the other reason I stopped too. It's like, oh, if I keep going, I'm gonna talk about stuff that we didn't read. Yeah. So
let's talk about some recent events and such.
Yeah. Oh man, we could go on and on and on about some of those.
Yeah, we could.
Should we talk about the elephant in the room first?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm assuming that's Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume.
Yeah, okay.
I assume so too, but I was gonna wait and see what you said.
Wait, what's that elephant, Kiefer?
Yeah, the elephant that we all know what it is. What is that thing?
So, okay, they've been teasing, DC and Marvel both been teasing their really mysterious, huge summer events. I think summer, right? Or is it going to be a year-long event?
No, I think it's just summer. I'm not I'm not sure what Marvel's exact plans are, but I know DC's is April and March.
Oh,
so I guess that's early.
Okay, so
but then again, it's kind of the same with Marvel. Who knows what the books are going to be like after the event?
Sure. Well, and it's kind of smart to do it more March and April, because then you have Free Comic Book Day in May, and so if you're gonna launch new things, it's nice to have some Free Comic Book Day exclusive, like, hey, here it is, preview type material for that free day.
Ooh, actually, I think I'm wrong. It's not March and April for DC. It's April and whatever comes after. I got whatever comes after.
April and May? Okay.
April and May.
You fools, DC!
You fools.
March and April was perfect. Fail.
Okay, but yeah. God, it's so weird they're both doing very similar things at the same time. I'm so suspicious.
Okay, so going back, yeah. We'll get into your conspiracy theory later here.
Okay, yep.
First, we got to explain why you think this might happen, and you might be right. Who knows? It's suspicious. Marvel's big thing has been Secret War, and they've been it feels like they've been talking about Secret War forever. Like they were going to do it before, and then they didn't do it, and now it's happening. And they dropped the bomb that they are going to dissolve. Like, everybody's kind of assumed that the Marvel Ultimate Universe is going away.
Yeah. Because
they've been really stripping back the number of titles that they've had.
And they've been...
And every time you think that it's gone, it's like they've pimped it leaving 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's going to end, it's going to end, it's going to end. It's like they've rebooted it 3 times without rebooting it. So everyone kind of assumed that is what was going to happen. But what we've just found out with several notable sites have released, and they kind of, I think they did it like a press event for this, where they announced that they're basically going to have Secret War establish a new reality. So the new reality going forward will not be Marvel 616, which is what we know of as core Marvel continuity. And it will not be Ultimate. It'll be neither one. It'll be some third thing. And so my brain immediately went, okay, so they're going to do Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, essentially that's what it sounds like.
At first it sounded like a New 52, because that's the most recent thing that we all know of. You know, it's like, oh, they're just going to do New 52. Well, then I was like, no, this sounds more like Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it really does, without maybe the cosmic stuff.
There's probably been more released about it since I read this, but the wording sounded like they were basically going to take bits and pieces from the main Marvel universe and Ultimate Universe and whatever else and mesh it together, and that's the new universe.
Right.
That's how it sounded.
And then after I thought Crisis on Infinite Earths, I thought, oh, that's why they're killing Wolverine and Deadpool, because they could just bring them right back.
Well, how weird is it? Okay, it is cheesy to kill off Wolverine and then do this, and exactly, they can bring him right back. But how weird is it to make a big deal about killing off Deadpool, like, literally right before they reboot everything? Like, it almost invalidates the hype around killing Deadpool.
Right, especially since we know that, I mean, yes, he's gone on and killed everything, including the Marvel Universe, but we know that there's alternate Deadpools. So they can easily just pull in an alternate Deadpool.
And, of course, you know, anytime they kill any major character, you know eventually they'll be back. It's just weird to, I mean, I guess comic book sales are comic book sales, and when it comes down to it, those kind of events are all about, pulling in some new readers and bigger numbers, but it just seems weird to make such a big deal about the death of these characters right before they launch this big event that seems to invalidate the importance of all that.
When they've done it across the board, look at all the things that they've done. They've got the female Thor right now.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the Falcon as Captain America. You've got the superior Iron Man.
Oh yeah, good call.
You've got, you have all of these things that have happened, and you get invested in them. You go, like, first you're skeptical. It's like Superior Spider-Man. It's like, well, I'm skeptical of this, that this is even a good idea. That Peter Parker's essence has essentially died, and now it's, Doc Ock driving Peter Parker's body. I mean, like, that's a tough sell right off the bat. But after a couple of months of really solid writing, you get on board. And then you start to realize what a brilliant book it actually is. And then Peter Parker's back.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like that's what's happening right now. It's like, the Falcon might be doing really incredible things with the Captain America mantle, and it won't matter because, they're gonna do what they're gonna do here in a couple of months. Quit playing games with my heart, Marvel.
Well, and Marvel is not, obviously, like, Marvel's not immune to the whole comic book cliche of, eventually everything will go back to the status quo,
Oh yeah, they're almost more guilty of it than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way you can't keep a universe, they can't keep their narrative going for decades like they have without kind of playing that game.
That's true.
It's just weird because, DC did the whole reboot, the New 52 reboot, and Marvel's like, nope, we're never going to do that. But,
yeah.
And I guess technically, depending how they play this, they're not doing a hard reset, but it's still kind of the same thing.
They're melding the multiverse, which is Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting because, I could be wrong, but it seems like they're going in opposite directions a little bit. Like, it feels like Marvel is doing a house cleaning event, which will merge all this stuff that they have kind of as dangling. It's like the brand has gotten too big, so now we've got to pull it all in, make it more cohesive. And then DC, on the other hand, is finding out that the last time they did that, it was kind of, like, we really like that. We don't want you to get rid of that. And so now we've got some titles coming up with Convergence that are going to be directly and exclusively things from pre-Flashpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And pre New 52.
So last night I went through, DC publishes their, like, solicits for, whatever month. And I'm usually a couple days behind because I forget to check their site for it. But last night I went through and I posted their most recent solicits, which is for the first month of this big Convergence thing for April. And how they had it laid out is there's the main miniseries, Convergence miniseries, which is weekly. So the first 4 issues in April and then 4 more issues to follow. And then looking through their solicits, they had it separated by week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And all the week 1 books were, which each title is basically a number, issue 1 of 2 for the series, all their week 1 books, their descriptions start with featuring the heroes of pre-Flashpoint DCU, and the week 2 were featuring the heroes of 0 Hour, and then 3 and 4 were featuring heroes of
0 Hour.
Yeah.
That's way back. That's a huge throwback, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And then it seemed like weeks 3 and 4 were Crisis on Infinite Earth stuff.
Oh man, now I'm going back to 0 Hour, and yeah, that's way back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not like way back, not like 80s way back, but like 90s or early 2000s way back.
Yeah. Which is...
Oh, wow.
I was kind of surprised by that.
Because that's when isn't that when they kind of rebooted Superboy? Like, Superboy dies in 0 Hour, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Well, is that when they did the whole, like, him punching through the walls of reality thing, or maybe...
See, I'm trying to figure that out. Okay, no, Superboy essentially sacrifices himself at the end of Infinite Crisis, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
And, what I'm thinking of, 0 Hour was even further back. It's like right after Superman's death and return. Like, the Superboy ongoing series is like happening at this time, but I don't think that they're more than like a year in. I remember reading it at the same time I was reading the ongoing Robin title, which was Tim Drake at the time. And then Superboy, because I was into all those, post Death of Superman titles that DC was doing. Oh, okay, sorry. I had to calibrate what 0 Hour was, and I'm surprised they're going there. That's interesting.
So for the most part, like Convergence, I think we've talked about it here on here before, and if you're following comics news at all, you already know they've been talking about that already for a while. But man, the setup is awful similar to Secret Wars. Yeah.
Or even another Crisis without calling it Crisis, because people are getting tired of hearing about Final Infinite Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Well, I keep hearing mentions of, like, Blood Moon or something like that, where I don't remember who was talking to me about that, but they thought that, the next Crisis type event would be called Blood Moon, and I guess there's been ties to this whole event with the Blood Moon title somehow. I don't know how. I'm
pulling in the supernatural stuff again, or
I'm not sure. But I know. Okay, so it seems like they've taken. Oh, it's so crazy. Okay, so they've taken the Convergence thing. Is whoever, I think Brainiac, perhaps, I'm not sure, has taken and basically domed a bunch of cities from different realities or different universes, and then of course, pitting different versions of heroes against each other, and then Secret Wars.
That doesn't sound familiar at all.
I know, right? And then Secret Wars is almost exactly the same thing, right? Like he's taking.
Yeah, well, it's basically they send them to. The original Secret Wars was that they're all like put on a different plane or world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically the same thing. It's called Battle World.
Yeah,
and then the way that Secret Wars will end is whoever survives Battle World will populate the new reality. That's what Secret Wars is Battle World. I don't know what they're calling. I don't know what they're calling the DC thing.
The DC is just, I'm not sure what the event obviously is Convergence, but I'm not sure what, beyond that.
They'll call it Bumper World, where they're all in bumper cars, and if this multiverse bumps against that multiverse, shenanigans.
I like it. I think that's great.
Welcome to the Bumperverse. Da, 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 da.
Well, now, I don't know how Marvel's been leading up to this, but like DC with their Convergence thing, it really seems, and they have not said that they're ending the New 52 universe, but it really seems like they've been leaning towards an end of the New 52 universe because they started.
Oh no!
Well, I'm probably wrong. This is starting to crack. This is starting to bump into my crackpot theory a little bit. But they started all those weekly books, the World's End books. They did that month where all the titles had their 5 years later type Future's End thing, where it was supposedly a glimpse into 5 years. With the Batman books, they started Batman Eternal, which has been really good, but it's basically like a weekly book to, like, in a way, pump out the story, real quick. And the story's been good, but it's just like a lot of stuff happening fairly quickly. they've pretty much ruined Earth too. But
It's like the Cimmerillion of the
yeah.
Cimmerillion of you.
It just seems like it was like kind of going along, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, anything you guys wanted to do in this world, just you need to hurry up and do it, or we need to wrap it up, or something.
It's like the writer's room storyline. Like, all right, writers, we had a lot of good ideas. You better use them.
You better use them, because things are changing. Wolverine's coming over. No, I don't know. I can't, okay.
Oh, no.
I know that, okay, I have that theory. I can't actually envision it happening. My idea, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to have this idea, is that Convergence and this big Marvel thing, where they basically, both companies are essentially breaking up all their alternate universes and then meshing them together. What if all the universes got meshed together? But I don't really see it happening.
So what Randy's saying is that Disney's going to buy Warner Brothers.
Well, and I guess that would make it problematic because, that just seems like, from a business standpoint, way too big of a merger to still be secret. You know what I mean? So I don't really think that's what's going to happen. But man, if it was going to happen, it seems like this is setting it up.
Yeah.
And I don't know
they've got to be sharing their playbooks with each other at this point. It's so weird.
There's no way it's not coincidence, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's either like, whoa, yeah. See, Torx is even mad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the greatest coincidence ever, or they're trying to outdo each other, like one-upmanship.
Yeah, and maybe that's it too. I mean, that could totally be it. If DC had this coming down the pipeline eventually, and Marvel had this coming, and I could see DC being like, oh, we need to hurry up and get it here, and Marvel's being like, oh, we need to stall out a little bit so we can directly compete. Like, that kind of seems like, all these changes with the Marvel characters, they could be like, well, let's just do some crazy stuff before this gets here, it'll buy us some time. And then DC's like, oh, hurry. So
Marvel's like, we didn't take New 52 seriously, and the kids like it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got to do something because they're talking Convergence, and God only knows what's going to happen now.
So what if we did another Secret Wars? Wait, they're doing what?
That's it. We're ending it. We're ending everything. It's got the Doctor Who Dalek problem. It's like. Okay, so we had the Skrull invasion, and that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let Norman Osborn run everything. That'll change everything. Let's have the Asgardians be a terrorist problem. That's gonna change everything. Oh man, we've done everything. Time to just end everything,
We're just gonna
and
end
that'll change everything.
Yeah.
Hashtag changing everything.
Oh man. Yeah, so I have no idea how this is all going to play out. I'm kind of interested. The biggest thing out of all this that affects me is they canceled Swamp Thing. Those punks.
Yeah. What? Well, and for me, what they did was they canceled. And this may have nothing to do with the event, but they canceled X Factor.
Oh yeah,
which is written by Peter David, and they left it on this ridiculous cliffhanger where I'm like, what? They even tied it into Spider-Man 2099, like all the Peter David stuff, which kind of is like its own little Marvel universe inside the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
So
they've been doing a lot of they've been doing a lot of stuff with, from what I've been hearing, with the Spider-Man 2099 characters, right?
Yeah, well, because they're tying him in, they're doing a lot with the Spider-Man stuff in general, because they're doing the whole Spider-Verse crossover event thing right now, where all of the it's again tying into this multiverse idea, where all of the Spider-Man related characters ever are basically battling to stay, to remain. Like, there's this entity that is trying to gobble up all the totemed characters in the Marvel multiverse and absorb their powers. It's confusing unless you've been reading Spider-Man for a while. This character has existed in other iterations, but now he's taking out as many Spider-Mans as he can, Highlander style, to absorb their powers. And so Spidey 2099, he plays pretty heavily into that because he's a future Spider-Man, and it gets super confusing when you start talking multiple realities in comics.
In real life, Earth 2, where Marvel and DC somehow, where Marvel and DC, in real life, Earth 2, in a real life alternate dimension where the big two somehow merged, I honestly don't think I would like that. My brain doesn't have enough room to cram that much worth of a multi-universe history and narrative into it, like.
Well, yeah, like Superman doesn't, Superman and Thor next to each other, one or the other is going to be less impressive. Like Superman is impressive because he is a god among men on the planet. But then you put him next to Thor, and Thor is a god among men, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
so you're both god among men, and you're both aliens, sort of.
Well, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think you really keyed into it because both companies, with their characters, at the same time offer different things, but also too many similar things. You know what I mean? Like there's DC books generally do have a different tone from Marvel books, which is good. I like that, but at the same time, there's a lot of character overlap in from. Obviously from decades of two companies competing directly with each other.
Well, like, the Flash has always been DC's kind of lighter side, Mm-hmm. Flash always has been more of a wisecracker, that kind of thing. And so then you put the Flash and Spider-Man, and it's like, okay, well, those two wouldn't team up really well, but they have the right mentality to team up really well. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
It would be a really weird team-up. I mean, I don't know that you could team them up with the Flash being as fast as he is. But Spidey's fast, too, but not nearly to that level.
Yeah, exactly. How would they be able to... I'm sure writers could figure it out, because there's a lot of writers that have to do that when they're working on team books, but how would their powers complement or work with each other?
With like Arrow versus the Flash, or Arrow and the Flash, mm-hmm. you can see how that works as a storyline because of how different they are. Mm-hmm. But like Spidey and the Flash are just similar enough without being similar enough that it doesn't work as well.
Speaking of Arrow and the Flash, have you checked out the newest episodes of those?
Let's see. Yes, I believe so.
First episodes of each are out, at least as of recording. Well, the first episode since the mid-season break.
Yes, yeah. No, Arrow has gotten so formulaic that I just spout out what the whole episode's going to lead up to at the very beginning, mm-hmm. and half the time I'm right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so I totally called Arrow, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that did. But I was just like, okay, so this is going to happen because this happens in the flashback, and this is how.
I think the flashback, like, for the most part, they've used the flashbacks well. Like, it gives them a chance to get out of Starling City and like have a change of scenery in pretty much every episode. And sometimes the writers use it well to sometimes they use it well and sometimes it's ham-fisted, but to mirror what's going on in the main storyline. But yeah, then a lot of times though it ends up giving everything away. You're just like, it mirrors it too much.
I didn't know, it's not even that it was bad, it's not like it was like, wah, wah, it wasn't like horrible, but at the same time, it was like, I know exactly how they're going to use this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, there's only one way that Ollie's going to come back from the dead is that, you know, so-and-so is going to save him because he owes him, because he broke rank and did something that only Arrow would do, because it's, you know, it's like, because he's anti-authoritarian, and it's like, well, he's gonna do something, and then he'll be in his debt, and that's gonna be what saves his life, and lo and behold, spoilers.
Yeah, you know, the Arrow is just, a guilty pleasure, I guess.
It really is. It's becoming that. And yet I love it wholeheartedly. It sounds like I'm making light of it, but I do enjoy it a lot, or I wouldn't have gotten this far.
It's definitely cheesy. It's a little trashy, but at the same time, like, it's really, like, balances itself on the upper end of trashy TV. Like, it's pretty entertaining.
Okay, one thing we have not talked about as far as Arrow goes is, what about the Atom? Like, I never would have thought I would like Brandon Routh as this character, and I like him so much more as Ray Palmer than I do as Clark Kent. Like, I like him so much more now compared to the way that, I mean, and he wasn't bad in Superman Returns. I feel like he was the victim of kind of a weird script. I wouldn't even say bad, just weird, and not what anyone was expecting. But as the Atom, I'm digging it.
Now, I have not seen I've seen a little bit of, but I've not seen all of Superman Returns. But when that guy came on Arrow, I was like, who's this Superman looking? And then I looked at him, I was like, wait, that was Superman.
That is Superman. What?
You know, at first he was a little off and on just because the character's so forward, but particularly after I was about to say last night's episode. I watched it last night, but actually it's several days old now. But after this last episode, yeah, I really like him too. I think his performance was pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I like him though. Yeah, I agree with you. He's good, and I think the character's eccentric enough that he's interesting.
And they finally gave him a pseudo serious. Well, it was pretty serious. It's about as serious as we've seen this character get in that most recent episode. And it was like, oh, okay. And he can snap between them. I mean, like, that's one thing I was like, you know, he's funny, but he's not the funniest character. I felt like he was almost too funny for who the character is. And it really started to feel like they were turning the Atom into Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I'm still digging it. You know, it's my same problem with the Arrow being so much like Batman. Mm-hmm. You know, well, yeah, but I like Batman, so I guess it's not a problem.
Well, with that character, I think you pegged it like how he's being portrayed, because at first he was not that it was particularly funny, but too funny, you know, almost too cutesy in a way, which fit the fact that they're really pairing him up with Felicity, you know, because she's kind of the humorous cutesy character. But it really was them giving him a more of a serious background and something, you know, kind of a heavy scene to work with. Where I was like, you know what, he's actually pretty good. Like, he's pretty good in this role. That's really is what won me over on him. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it was good. I'm digging it. I'm glad to see Brandon Routh back in the comics universe, but not as Superman. Like, I don't know, maybe that was too big of boots for him to fill. Not that he didn't do it, but he's
certainly got that look.
Yeah.
He's got that look. I still think, look, it's Superman. Superman's in this. When we were watching the Previously On at the beginning, and it had the little snippet of Arrow's fight with Ra's al Ghul, Melanie pointed out, she's like, because I don't think she mentioned it when we watched the actual episode, she's like, that death scene was actually really well done. And
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. Like, the look of it was good. It's like pretty hardcore. He stabbed Arrow through the lungs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I just had to comment that was actually handled pretty well.
Yeah.
What happened in the Flash? Oh yeah,
Captain Cold.
Captain Cold and Heatwave. Was it Heatwave?
Yes, Heatwave. Yeah. Yeah, I liked that. More Captain Cold, and I think we're going to get an awful lot of Captain Cold because he's the leader of the Rogues, and the Rogues are basically, they're the Sinister Six of the Flash universe. So,
and I can't remember exactly what the episode title was, but it was something to do with Rogues.
It was the Rogues' Revenge.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really building up towards the Rogues. I don't know that. It's funny that they keep calling it that because right now it's just Cold and one other guy, but clearly it is more than one other guy because at the end we get a reveal of a mystery character that we don't get to see.
I'm loving the Flash. This episode I thought was a little cheesier, and it's just because they have the bad guys play classically cheesy kind of bad guys. They talk like that, but there's fun to be had there. So, like, at the same time, that pushes the cheese factor up quite a bit. But man, it's enjoyable. It's fun cheese.
It's hard for me to see them portray Captain Cold any other way, though, because he's such a hard case. Like, he is. He takes himself so seriously that it's like they found the perfect person for that. It's like, you're such a cheesy, you're such a gimmicky villain, but you take yourself so seriously that you need a character actor that can do that. And so far, I think this guy is pulling it off. And I didn't see him. He's from Prison Break.
Okay.
I think we talked about this with Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
My biggest issue, I think, with the show, and this is probably generally dealing with the Flash as a character, is that the Flash, like, technically given the level of villains he's got right now, where Captain Cold is at in Heatwave, he's such an overpowered character that I find myself frustrated because I'm like, no, this fight would not. All the Flash has to just run up, take the guns away from them while they're talking to you.
Yeah,
you're faster than they can even think. This fight would be over. What are you doing? But that's not thematically or exciting.
When they're trying to build him up as this is like year one Flash, where he's still, like every episode he's learning more about his abilities and he's getting faster and faster, and like they haven't had him vibrate through anything yet.
No, they haven't. I'm waiting.
There's still abilities that he has to unlock, and the time travel, which we've kind of, I think there's been press out that he's going to, he's going to hit that level of speed where there will be time travel.
Well, and since they've and they'll do the flashbacks to when he was a kid and his mom was attacked.
Yeah.
Particularly since they've established the Reverse Flash,
right?
The man in the yellow suit. It's pretty obvious that it's red and yellow streaks going on in that scene. So yeah. I'm super excited for that. I'm actually still kind of surprised. Of course, I guess if you're a TV show and you don't know if you're coming back for a second season, you want to pull out all the stops. I'm surprised they revealed that much in the first season already.
Oh yeah,
regarding the
Reverse Flash. It's kind of a strange way to start, considering. I mean, they've done and undone that story to different characters so many times. Like Barry Allen returned right before they rebooted the entire DC universe with the whole Flash Rebirth thing, because he got lost in the Crisis. He was swallowed up by the Speed Force, which is what he taps into. And he was gone for decades, and it was Wally West, Kid Flash, that took over the mantle. And when they came back, then they did this whole storyline where that's what happened. The Reverse Flash went back in time and tried to erase the Flash's entire existence. You know, by killing off his parents and that kind of thing. Tried to go back in time, but, you know, obviously the Flash can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, part of what makes Arrow fun in terms of, like, coming at it from, and I don't even have that much comic knowledge of Green Arrow or Flash, but coming at it from that point is seeing, like, the characters they'll pull from the comics and the little nods. Flash, I really appreciate because it's not little nods. It's obvious, straight up in your face. Hey, here's this character. And, and referencing the Rogues the Rogues specifically, I just like that. Like,
in the episode title. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's unabashedly like, it's the Flash, you know, from the comics. Like, I just like that approach.
Hey, guess who her fiance was? Firestorm.
Yeah, exactly. And,
yeah.
Oh, Bonsai, you scared me. I felt like a weird pulling on my leg. He's trying to scratch at me. But anyway. So yeah. Those shows are still cheesy, but man, they're fun.
Yeah. I think I squeed with delight when that whole episode with Wildcat and the boxing glove arrow. That moment. Oh, God. I was just like, I can't wait. They'll have to do it at some point. And then when it happened, I was like, yes. And then Holly's like, no, science. That arrow would go right through the punching glove or the boxing glove. And I was like, okay, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that too. And actually, I can't believe I forgot to mention that whenever the last time we recorded it. Since then, I wanted to mention that, but yeah, it was pretty fantastic. I don't think Melanie was also that impressed with it either, so it's definitely...
Well, you know, I mean, like, that's golden age. I mean, we're going way back when you talk about his trick arrows.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not New 52 Green Arrow, I don't know, but they'll even in the comics pull that out as a gag once in a while, the boxing arrow glove, and somebody will be like, really? A boxing arrow? Yeah. A boxing glove arrow? It's just classic, so I'm really glad they went there.
Anytime that they need to, like now in the modern universe, anytime they need to pull Ollie down a peg, they reference that.
Yep. Arguably one of the more fun moments in Arrow, because even though that there's some fun moments, it usually does take itself kind of overly serious sometimes.
Even Wildcat, it was like, oh wow, they're gonna do Wildcat, but they're gonna make him like really. They're gonna make him really serious too. And I mean, he is kind of serious, but he's got such a ridiculous costume in the comics.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, okay, they're gonna go there, huh? But they tied it in really well with, you know, Black Canary and everything that's happening there.
I can't stand Laurel. I just gotta say it.
I don't like her as much as Sarah.
We actually get her in the Black Canary costume at the end of the most recent episode. I guess that's kind of spoiler, but like it's obvious that's what they were building up to.
When that's the thing that bugs me about, you know, like the thing that bugs me about that is that she uses all of the gear that Sarah spent years, you know, learning how to use. She would be different. It's like all the Robins. The Robins are not identical. You know, each of the Robins has their own thing. And Laurel should be the same way. If they're going to do multiple Black Canaries, then she's not going to wield the bow staff.
Yeah.
She's going to have her own thing, and she's going to be more of a brawler because she trained with Wildcat.
Yeah, exactly. And it was pretty brief, her appearance as Black Cat, but what, she's been training for 6 months, maybe?
Yeah.
If that, like...
And is she still training with him?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of assumed she was.
We don't even know. Yeah, I guess, maybe.
But they didn't say that. I just assumed it, so yeah, I'm not sure. Arrow does have... It has that thing where 6 months and suddenly, if that, and suddenly a character can stand up against Ollie or what's his name? What's his name in the show? Captain Jack. I can't remember his name. Jack Hartman.
Barrowman. Yeah.
Yeah. Who I apparently have both been training for years and years. They kind of do that, and I guess I understand it. You just want to rush. You just want to put these characters in the situation. Suspension.
Well, Thea's been doing nothing but train with Merlin since the summer.
Merlin.
An entire summer with Merlin, and it's magic. So.
Yeah. I mean, I give that training a little bit more than Laurel's training, but still, that's a minor complaint.
Is it hard to envision him in this serious role, Barrowman? Because sometimes I have a hard time realizing it was because he's. I don't know. He's got a little bit of that smarm to him, but everything else I've seen him in, and even his public appearances, he's so madcap and not taking things seriously that when I see him as Merlin, I'm like, I don't know if I'm buying it.
I laugh at him so many times when I think he's supposed to be serious. He just makes me laugh. I can't help it. I can't remember what it was in this last episode, but there was something where he said something, and it was supposed to be, you could tell kind of serious, but he said it with some gusto, and it just cracked me up just because of his delivery. And I was like, I don't know. I don't.
He's even had really, poignant moments. As Jack Harkness, he gets a lot of, moments where it's like, okay, we're going to kill a third of the children on the earth.
Yeah.
It's like he gets those moments and he pulls them off, but there's always a comedy relief follow-up somewhere.
Uh-huh. And I think with Arrow, cause he is capable, Torchwood, they put his character through some paces in Torchwood. I think as an actor, he's capable, but I think Arrow demands a seriousness, but not that level of seriousness. So he doesn't necessarily put, that tone in it. It's just still always got a little bit of he's always got a little smirk on his face.
Yeah. It's like he's just excited to be doing something like this.
Uh-huh.
He just, and that shouldn't be a negative, really, but it's like, you're having entirely too much fun here, Barrowman.
Yeah. But you know what, though? That's probably what it is. I bet, really, he is having too much fun. And that translates to the screen maybe when it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, from everything I've heard, he's a pretty wild guy to work with.
Well, you listen to podcasts that he's been on, it's probably been a couple of years back, but he did a podcast with the Nerdist guys, and it was like, whoa.
Oh, I have not heard that one. I might have to search that one up.
Just look for any kind of public appearance that he's done. I'm really excited to we're definitely getting in his line at Planet here in March.
Yeah.
I think that the couple that we're ironclad on is obviously we're going to meet Karen Gillian. Is it Karen? Yeah, Karen. I always get it wrong, so I got to double check myself. So Amy Pond and then John Barrowman, we're going to get in those two lines. Gwen Cooper was originally scheduled to go, and those two were the ones I was most interested in. Amy Pond slid way down my list when I thought Gwen Cooper was going.
Oh, did she drop out, though?
Scheduling conflicts. So they're talking about maybe booking her for next year, but, it's always down to the guests and what they can make happen. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of bummed about that because I was like, man, if we can get a picture with John Barrowman, with Captain Jack and Gwen Cooper,
that would be pretty cool. Yeah,
that's happening. I will spend the money on that because those are the principal characters that are left for Torchwood. I mean, those are only two you need to make us Torchwood at this point.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Oh, I guess before we move into old Batman, as Melanie would say.
Yeah.
Batman of the Synth, I think is what
Yes,
they call
we
it.
need to talk about that because we've kind of put a pin in that one for a while now.
Yeah, and I keep spacing it off.
And speaking of that project, there's also, aren't you working on or in the early stages of another compilation album?
Another EMG one?
Yes.
Is that? Yep.
Yep.
The EMG compilation album, yeah, we're working on that. It should be out in March, which is not too far away. And that's going to be, ideally a lot of our electronic musicians group compilation albums are like, most of them have a theme. But for this one, I wanted to kind of go back to like our first compilation album where it's not a theme, but the idea it's new music though by the different musicians and bands and that are in the group, to kind of be like, this is where EMG's at now, you know?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, have you seen a lot of turnover? Like, are most of the kind of founding members of EMG still involved?
Really, a lot of the ones that have been in the group since year one, I guess you'd say, are still there and active. A couple of them aren't as active just because they're not as active making music right now. And which kind of bums me out, but, you know, they've got stuff going. They have, you know, life, I guess, going on.
Oh, Paul.
But like,
likely story.
Like, I think this compilation, I'd say the majority, 75% of the artists that had a track on the first compilation album, which came out like 3 years ago, will have a new track on this. So I'm pretty excited for that. And then, of course, you know, people that have joined up since then. But yeah, in March. So that'll be cool. That'll be, you know, pretty diverse. I say electronic-based music because most of it is, but it's more from the standpoint of like how the music's created, because we have a couple guys that in there that have various projects ranging from like doom or black metal to where it's like straight up classic heavy metal, black metal style music. And then you'll have guys on there that are all electronic and it's synths and stuff like that. So pretty wide variety of genres. So yeah, that's happening. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'll have to make a new song for it. I haven't started working on it yet, but there's time. There's time. The other thing, hashtag Batman. Get the attention back. Batman of the Synth came out, what was it, last month maybe? Or maybe the month before?
I was going to say, has it been longer?
It might have been 2 months. Yeah, it might have been longer.
I was just like, hey, why haven't we talked about this?
This was a cool project, and I didn't have anything. This was put together by some people in different synthwave groups and put out by this very cool, I guess you'd call them a label, Retro Promenade.
Uh-huh.
But, so I didn't have anything to do with putting this together, but I did get a track on there. And as soon as I heard the concept, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta be in on this. Basically the idea was they, reached out to Synthwave artists, which is Synthwave is, you know, kind of like a modern take on 80s style new wave and synthesizer music.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, okay, so, we're doing a Batman themed compilation album. Everybody picks a character. Nobody picks the same character, you know, so everybody picks a different character from the Batman universe and create a track based on them, inspired by them somehow, and go. And the album is like 37 tracks long. Yeah,
it's big because I bought the download because it's pay what you want. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I chipped in and I started downloading. I was like, this is a big download.
Yeah, it's like 37 different artists, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and man, the synthwave community is really cool because you've got like as far as the genre goes, you've got like the well-known and the professional sounding guys and ladies, you know, but also like the smaller guys. Like I'll kind of group myself in there with the smaller guys because, you know,
mm-hmm.
I know there's people in the genre that are having their stuff professionally produced, and then a lot of people that are bedroom producers, as they say.
Right.
Or closet producers, like
closet.
But that's got a weird tone to it, so I won't use that term, I guess. But yeah, so I got a track on that. The album's awesome and it's huge, and some of the characters that they pulled, I was like, wow, like they really pulled some like pretty obscure characters once in a while. I think there's a track on there about Grey Ghost, which was the character from the Batman the Animated Series, played by Adam West.
Oh,
which I was like, the Grey Ghost! Oh my gosh, that's awesome! Because it was basically like the Batman Animated Series version of what Batman is. Like,
of Batman 66, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But for my character, and I had no trouble getting this character because nobody else picked, nobody, I don't think anybody thinks to pick Professor Pig, but I did a Professor Pig track.
Yes, yeah.
So you should definitely check that out. If you go to Retro Promenade, or promenade.bandcamp.com, I'll include a link in the show notes because I don't want to spell it out. You can get that album, like Jesse said, it's pay what you want. If you want to be cheap, you can get it for free. If you want to chip in, do that. That goes towards the label. They do a lot of really cool compilation albums and different stuff like that. So anything that goes to them, they put into future releases, which is awesome. Right now, they are, not to drag this on too long, but right now they just put out a Twin Peaks, like similar concept, but with Twin Peaks.
Oh, I bet that'd be an interesting sound, and it's perfect for that, that sound.
Yeah, it kind of is. Like the Batman thing works in a concept because Batman's been around forever and it's flexible.
Yeah.
But Twin Peaks comes right on the edge, like, that came out in the super early 90s. And so it's right on the edge of where it still fits into the time period that Synthwave usually, like, conjures in your mind when you hear it.
When it's got all those weird elements that would become, like, X-File style,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it has a lot of those X-File, like, what's going on here moments without being X-File.
Yeah. And I didn't get in on Volume 1. I'm working on a track for Volume 2. Volume 2 is like remixes. I'm actually having a lot of trouble. By the time this episode comes out, the due date for that will be passed, but I'm having trouble with that one, so I might drop off of Volume 2. But they're going to do a Volume 3, which is all original music, and I'll definitely have that. But anyway, I mentioned that because Volume 1 had been the best-selling album on Bandcamp for several days in a row.
Oh, wow.
They were super excited about that, and rightfully so. I really wish I'd kind of got in on that one.
Yeah, that's a huge community, so.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Batman of the Synth, check it out. It's a lot of pretty awesome tracks. A lot of 80s sounding tracks. My track, I think, sounds kind of 80s, but it's got a bit more weird, creepy tone to it. But I was going
to say, you pull a little bit of your John Carpenter in there.
Yeah, but I was like, Professor Pig is it's called Professor Pig and his Dollatrons. I was like, it's such a weird character. It's gotta be a weird, creepy track. So,
yeah,
check that out. I'll include a link in the show notes. You get me started, Jesse, and I'll wind myself talking about this.
Well, we've got to talk about this stuff.
So, moving from that Batman, since we didn't have a regular segment, I was like, and I'm actually glad you picked this, Jesse, because this is something Melanie would have no interest in reading. But I messaged... Oh, what's that?
I don't know why I started reading it, but I was just like, okay, it's been sitting long enough. And I am interested in it. And it is Kevin Smith, at least he's involved. Mm-hmm. And so, like, there's no reason for me not to read this. And so I just kind of started. And I was like, oh, hey, here's the thing I've been reading.
So I was like, well, we don't have... Melanie will be gone for a big part of this episode, and we don't have an extra segment since Swamp Studies will be next month. And you suggested Batman 66 Meets The Green Hornet.
Yep.
Which is something I had bought. I had all the issues here. I had to dig through like a year's worth of on Organized Comics to find them. I really need to go through my comic collection and organize them.
When I had read issue 1 quite a while ago, so I had to go back upstairs and look for issue 1 because the other ones were still down here, but I had to go find it so that I'd have them all for the show.
So yeah, Batman 66 Meets the Green Hornet, six issue miniseries, written by Ralph Garman and Kevin Smith, and art by Ty Templeton with covers by Alex Ross. And I got to give those covers.
Oh, they're brilliant. I would hang these on my wall, no problem.
Well, I appreciate good cover art, but I'm not like a lot of people will buy an issue just because of the cover art. You know, oftentimes I won't necessarily do that. But man, these covers are so nice. Like my eyes, like I'd pick up the next issue to read it, and I'd just get stuck on the cover and be like, awesome cover art.
Oh yeah.
I think my favorite issue 2, where they're on top of the train with the bubble gum, or not the bubble gum, the glue, but it looks kind of like bubble gum.
Yeah.
That cover is magnificent. And then also the issue with all 4 of them, on the cover with all 4 of them climbing up the side of the building, classic bat climb style.
With the ghosts of the villains behind them.
Mm-hmm. That was really good.
Awesome. When I even like the first and the last ones with the POWs and the, you know, I mean, it's nothing that you wouldn't expect. You know, kind of a classic way to start and end the series, but
the execution is excellent.
Yeah.
And the color palette's perfect. All the covers are pretty magnificent.
And the interior art's no slouch either. I was it in the 5th issue or 4th issue? They incorporate a second group. Templeton does half the art, and then the other half is done by another studio.
Okay, see, yeah, I wasn't sure, but I noted there. Yeah, I did notice the art change, and I finished the last 2 issues about 10 minutes before I messaged you and started setting up the podcast, so I forgot to go back and look to see who did it. But yeah, I did notice the art change in like issues 4 or 5.
Yeah, was it Mad Pencil Studios? Is that it? I don't know. That's what it says on the cover of 5.
And it's not a drastic art change. It still feels cohesive, but yeah, it's a little different at that
Just
point.
Thinner line work, you know.
That's like, exactly, yep.
This Ty Templeton he had a really distinct style that had this really thick line, this like brush line, and I think that this other art style was awesome, and it definitely pulled from the 66 series, but it was thinner style line, maybe a little more mechanical looking. So
Melanie's back in time to hear us talk about Batman 66.
Yeah, perfect timing. Old Batman.
Old Batman.
Wait, what did you do for the whole hour I was gone?
I don't know.
Arrow.
Flash.
It's stuff you would have enjoyed talking about.
Yeah.
Probably. Man, I didn't even think about that. We should have just done Batman and then... Oh, man.
That's okay. I'll sit here quietly. Keep to myself while you boys talk about your Batman.
No, Melanie was sitting there as I was finishing up the last couple issues, and I looked at her and I was like, I was like, this is the perfect book to read without you, because you would have no interest. The puns are insane.
Oh, yeah, that's Adam West at his finest right there, is the puns. No wonder I have such a problem.
Yeah. Well, and
I grew up on this show and MASH.
Reading, I didn't want to say the writing. We touched on the artwork a little bit. I think the artwork's pretty excellent throughout.
Oh yeah.
The look of the characters are all perfect. The color palette matches the show very well. But at the same time, it's also like, it's a comic book, so you'll get more dynamic angles and stuff. And a little bit more dynamic action, because there's times where like they will like jump through a sky, what is it? A sky roof, moonroof?
Oh yeah. Skylight, yeah.
So you'll actually see the Adam West costumed Batman leaping through the air, and I'm like, They could not do that on the old show.
Yeah, they never did that. Yeah.
If anything, like he'd just like kind of jump out from the side of the screen and land. You know?
Most of the time, he would run in, stop, and look around, and then point at the air and declare something.
Yep. The writing like pegged the tone.
And that was an interesting thing, because usually when I hear Kevin Smith's writing, I think Kevin Smith, and I hear Kevin Smith's characters, like in the View Askew-verse, even when it's Batman titles, like Kevin Smith's voice comes through. But in this, it was so pitch perfect to 66 Batman that all I could hear was Adam West and, Burt Ward.
Me too. I'm really curious as to how much of the workload was handled by Kevin Smith and how much was handled by Ralph Garman, because I was listening to they have that podcast Hollywood Babylon around the time when this got announced and they could start talking about it, and of course they did. Ralph Garman is a huge Batman 66 fan. In fact, Ralph Garman is responsible for Adam West finally getting a star on the Hollywood
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
He worked for years to make that happen. Like, I'm sure other people contributed as well, but he was one of the driving forces behind, because apparently it's this whole weird, like, you got to petition and you got to, like, it's this whole weird thing to get somebody's star on there.
Mm-hmm. But Adam West at this point, it's like, they do cartoons where, and Adam West is the voice of Adam West. He's like that famous. Why wouldn't he have a star,
He was just one of those, yeah, but he's one of those actors that's like, everybody knows Adam West, but he does get a lot of that cartoon work, but it's still kind of niche,
Yeah, he's kind of both. He's like a household name, but not always because of his awesomeness.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Maybe awesomeness is the phrase that would be contested.
Yeah. Well, and apparently, and I didn't know this, they only give out so many, and a bunch of people have to agree to it, and there's like a question of money and all this other stuff that goes into getting a star. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, so Ralph Garman is a huge Batman 66 fan. And apparently DC, and I'm assuming Dynamite Comics, because this is co-published by them too, because Dynamite has the Green Hornet license.
Right.
It was Dynamite, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
And they approached Kevin Smith. And
Kevin Smith, because he started their modern line of Green Hornet.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting. That I did not realize.
Yeah. Well, modern, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But when Dynamite started really hitting the Green Hornet with their own series, Kevin Smith started it, and then they took what he started with and they continued it without him, because Kevin Smith has so many projects going that.
And I think he has attention issues.
Yeah. He can only do so many projects at once and be successful. So.
Well, they approached him, and according to this is, I heard this on their podcast or whatever, and he said he's interested, but he really wants to co-write it with his buddy Ralph Garman, because Ralph's a huge fan of that stuff. And so, they agreed, sure, okay, yeah, whatever. We just want you to do this book type of thing.
Yeah.
And then after that, it sounds kind of like he took it to Ralph Garman, and Ralph Garman was 100% on board. And from the tone of it was, if Ralph Garman wasn't working on it, it wouldn't have got done. Mm-hmm. And that's coming from both of them.
Yeah.
To where Ralph was all gung-ho and all about it, and would have to, like, get hold of Kevin Smith and be like, so we're going to do this and this and this, and Kevin Smith's, yeah, okay, do it, yeah, whatever, type thing.
So Ralph Garman's like the you.
Kind of. But, well, so I wonder how much of the writing is Ralph Garman and how much of it is Kevin Smith. I don't suppose it really matters, regardless who, how they worked it out. They nailed the tone of the dialogue, the tone of the crazy capers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The dialogue is great, and actually reading this like made me appreciate the things that are humorous about the show more. So that's, you know, a good indication that it's good. The book nails it. The alliteration in the dialogue and the voiceover, or as
the narrator or whatever, the third person. Yeah.
And the puns and the crazy stupid names that everybody calls each other, you know.
And the way that Batman would always talk about civic duty.
Mm-hmm. And it was perfect because more so than reading any other, like, when I read Batman, I guess a lot of people will hear, you know, so-and-so. Oh, I hear Batman, you know, Michael Keaton's voice, or I hear Christian Bale's voice, or Kevin Conroy's voice. I usually don't hear a specific voice when I read Batman. But reading this, I can't help but hear Adam West's voice. And it's always perfect. Mm-hmm. It nails it. His inflection and where he would rise on words, and like the dialogue always flows perfect to how it sounds in my head.
Yeah, I think the art pegged it too. I mean, like, I think they are so seamless, because whenever you would have Adam West style monologue, you'd have a classic look. Like this is where the camera would focus in on his face, and he'd just have one finger raised, giving his little soapbox treatment, and it was perfect.
And Burt Ward, they nailed his looks, and when he put his fists together, and you know,
let's punch him. makes me wonder if his Dick Grayson wasn't more like a Jason Todd. Because he always wants a fight.
Yeah, you're right, kind of, yeah.
And then Batman has to reel him in and like, no, come on, Dick.
Well, there's even one point where Robin says something about wanting to, you know, get the bad guys and whatever because they tried to kill them. And then, of course, Batman's like, don't confuse revenge for justice and blah, 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 and has this little speech and reels him in, but...
Gee, you're right, Batman.
And, like... the clues that the villains, for whatever reason, always have to leave behind, and how the heroes figure out, oh well, they mentioned this, and that has to do with Greece and blah blah blah. So naturally, they're at the old World Fair grounds.
The convoluted string of logic,
nailed it every time.
Kind of a throwback to Arrow. That's one of the things about Arrow and Flash that Holly and I always laugh about, because they did, you know, it's a CW property, and they did Smallville, and we always laughed when something would happen where Chloe would just figure out what was going on with the Meteor Rock Freaks or whatever. Like, someone would just like, oh, and you know what might be happening, and it was spot on what was happening.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you'll have a moment like that with Felicity or even Diggs. Will be like, hey, you know what? I bet you this is what's going on. And it was like, you have zero evidence to support that, but you know exactly what's happening now.
Yeah.
My favorite is, I gotta do this search. Type like 3 keys. Okay, here's the answer to all of our questions. I'm like, yeah, the internet doesn't work that fast. I don't know what kind of supercomputer you're working on that with 3 letters knows exactly what you want.
Roy Harper can hack the FBI's grid just by using Felicity Smoke's computer.
Yeah.
She's like, are you hacking their computer? And then that's it. Like, doesn't get into how dangerously stupid that is.
Also, since we're on this, one thing, and this has really been irritating me. This last episode, they really did it. 1, they need to lock their door. And 2, they might need to think about some type of security system, or at least a door chime like convenience stores have. Because everybody just walks right into the Arrow Cave.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're down there, they're always surprised when they turn around and Laurel's there or Merlin's there.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking about it while we were watching this episode. Every major villain has been in there. Every major villain in the show has been in that their hideout.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows where it's at. except for the person who owns the bar in which that is located.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
They really need a new hideout. And that reminds me, did you read any of the Harley Quinns?
No, I haven't read it for a while.
Every time you say the Arrow Cave, it drives me insane because in that she suggests that they call it the Quiver, and that's what I always think of it as. And I'm like, yeah, that's like great. And even in the comic, he's like, yeah, that's better, but too bad.
Too bad it's the Arrow Cave. Yep. That might have been in Injustice, now that I think about it.
Oh, was it?
Like the first year they were doing Injustice.
Oh, maybe it was.
Either way, it was Harley Quinn that was like, you need to call it the Quiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on this Batman 66 Meets the Green Hornet thing, I did a little extra credit.
Oh.
I read the first issue, and they were referencing the crossover from the TV show, and namely the villain. And I did not recall ever seeing that, so I searched it out online and watched the 2 episodes of the Batman 66 series.
Oh, awesome.
With the crossover. And for one, Bruce Lee.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, no way.
Mind-blowing to see Bruce Lee on Batman. I do not, maybe if I had seen those episodes when I was younger, it might have been before I was really aware of who Bruce Lee was. But it's so crazy. Yeah. And then there's a couple fights where like Bruce Lee, or where Kato and Robin are fighting, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah, Bruce Lee Ward Burt Ward actually gets some licks in, and it's like, are you kidding me?
I know. And then there's a couple times where Bruce Lee has some good lines, and he just delivers it Bruce Lee style, where the English is a little rough, but he's got so much attitude behind it.
Yeah.
Where I was like, that's frickin' Bruce Lee. Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. That was the thing, reading this again, where, again, they have Robin and Kato.
Mm-hmm.
They have to square off, or else a shark.
Yeah. Or else a shark, and then you never see the shark again.
Or else a shark.
Where was the shark even hidden? It was behind, like...
like a giant curtain that no one had pointed out before. But
or else a shark.
Or else a shark. If you don't fight, a shark. So, yeah, and then, again, you know, they're playing it up like, well, we were just stalling for time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, no, that's Bruce Lee, or at least it's referencing Bruce Lee, and Kato would so school Robin.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because Kato is every bit, if not more proficient than the Green Hornet when it comes to fighting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure, because the Green Hornet just pretty much has his gas gun and his Hornet Sting, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Oh, and that also reminds me, and I know this because of listening to Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman talk about it. The actor who played, let's see, in the comic it was General Gum, right? Or Colonel.
Yes. Yeah, in the comic it's General, and before it was it Colonel before?
Yeah.
They go into it at the beginning, yeah.
Is a Colonel, yeah, Colonel's under the General, right? Because he gave himself like a promotion
Yeah, he gave himself a field promotion, yeah.
Well, the actor who played him in the show was a guy named Roger C. Carmel. It says Carmel. It's probably pronounced fancier. But the reason Gum looks like he does in the comic is because they could get the rights to everybody else, the likeness rights, and that's how they can do the Batman 66 comic series and stuff now. But they couldn't get the rights to that actor. He's passed away, and I don't know if the family wanted too much money, or they weren't available, or they said no. I'm not sure the specifics, but they couldn't get the rights to him. So that's where they come up with this whole thing where he went to jail and then broke out of jail and was like inventing this new super glue, and it covered him. So that's the reason Colonel Gum looks like he does.
Okay, and they just show, like, in the flashback where he becomes General Gum, they just show, like, his, his mustache and, like, the top of his head, and then all of a sudden the explosion, and then we have a Clayface-esque Gum man. I thought it was just, that it's a comic, and so now they can do
do crazy things.
Yeah. So now we have a more super-powered villain because it's a comic now.
I guess it was. I mean, it works, and if you if you don't know that story, like you said, you assume since it's a comic, they can do that kind of thing now. But yeah, I guess it's a legal workaround because they really wanted to use that character since that was the villain from the episodes that they did the crossover on.
Sure.
So they had to come up with something so they could do that without violating the likeness issue. This is something they've been doing in the comics the whole time since they got the license to do the Batman 66. But I love that you can see the Joker's mustache through his makeup.
Yeah.
It's pretty
great.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome. Pitch perfect.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I don't know. Like the ongoing, I had started buying, and then I kind of dropped because I just wasn't reading it.
Uh-huh.
And this, like, I wouldn't mind picking up the occasional Batman 66 miniseries, but I don't know if I need that as an ongoing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'll just watch the show if I really want it.
I have the Untold one. The missing episode or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to read that, but again, I've just kind of been hoarding it, just like this one. I just kind of hung on to it until I needed, like that one I'm excited to read too. But am I going to go ahead and pick up the ongoing? I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just came down to you got to trim the fat once in a while, and I was like,
sure.
I'm buying almost every comic or every Batman themed comic. I was like, I need to try to trim it, and I was like, well, that's going to be one of them.
Yeah.
Just because I'm not as up on reading it all the time. That Batman 66 Lost episode, I'm very interested to read, but I think that thing is like $10.
Yeah, it's at least $8, and it's it's not even like a full trade either. It's like a mini trade kind of thing.
Yeah.
The only reason I got it is that I've always thought that why didn't they have a Two-Face in that series? Because he would have been perfect for all the puns. I mean, even as serious a character as he is, he's full of puns. And that's the one character that didn't ever make an appearance in the series. So I was excited to find out that there was a script.
Yeah, so that's based on an original script for the series, right?
Yeah, that just didn't ever happen. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I needed it, and when I found that out, I was like, yes.
I needed it.
Happening.
Well, and you're a Two-Face fan, too.
Yes, yeah.
I believe we've talked about that a bit.
Mm.
This is jumping back, but I know we mentioned... So we're going to be reading Batman 0 Year for the next pull list pick?
That's what you said.
Okay. And then our last Swamp Studies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might actually, if I have the gumption, because I want to read past Alan Moore's run. I want to see what follows.
Mm-hmm.
I might continue Swamp Studies on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Even if I just read it and ramble on a bit about what I thought, but I just want to spread the swamp word.
Yeah.
The swaga.
The swaga. But do you want to talk about, I think, what we decided on will replace Swamp Studies?
Yeah. Well, because I talk about these humble bundles all the time, and I really don't read anything off of them. But one of the big ones that I got was the last 2 Image humble bundles, which included an awful lot of The Walking Dead. So I've got at least 8 volumes of The Walking Dead that I need to read.
Nice.
You should. They're fantastic.
So we're thinking that will be the next Swamp Studies segment.
Yep. Yeah, so a volume, I'm assuming a volume per segment.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. I know I've read, I don't remember how far I've read. I've read past the first volume, but probably not that far.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like we mentioned earlier, that's one of the books Melanie's always after me. You're like, why aren't you reading this? I want to talk to you about this. So that'll be good. I'll have even more incentive to read it, even more of an excuse, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it is good. I enjoyed it. It's just it's just one of those series I put down at one point and didn't pick back up.
And it's got so many volumes now that becomes intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're beyond, they're in the 20s or 30s now as far as volumes go.
I know that issues, they're up to 130 or 140 something issues, and it comes out, for a while, they were putting it out twice a month.
Okay, here's the thing that I was surprised by, because I was looking into it, and Rick Grimes is he's 29 when this whole thing starts, and he's like 33 in current continuity. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Rick is younger than I am.
That's crazy.
and I have a hard time picturing him that way because of the show.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's older in the show, but also, like, he's so capable. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but...
No, makes sense.
I can kind of see it, considering how he's portrayed in Volume 1.
Yeah.
The Tony Moore album, volume, because he's got more of that baby face look to him. But it's like, really, he's only 33 now, several years into the continuity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So we need to come up with a title because we can't keep calling it Swamp Studies, and The Talking Dead is already taken.
Well, we could call it Dead Air.
Oh,
that's good.
I like that. Okay.
I'm sure there's a movie that's called Dead Air or something.
I'm sure there is. I've heard it. I know I've heard that phrase other than,
Yeah. I like that, and that's probably what we're going to go with, but I can just picture now typing up the episode descriptions and pimping them on Twitter. Oh, and listen to another installment of Dead Air on this audio podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast. Let's listen to Dead Air.
No, we talked about, when you were gone, we talked about Marvel.
The
Universe.
end of the Marvel U, yeah.
They're doing a big thing. Very similar to DC's big thing coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
then
not,
TV
it's not
show.
the end.
He's gonna be gone.
No.
It's going to be the beginning.
It's gonna be like some people speculate the universe is, where it like shoots out as far as it can go and then it all sucks back in and blows up again, and it's just the same universe reborn.
It's kind of true.
Hashtag everything changes.
Everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is Nightwing.
Again. Yeah, everyone is Nightwing.
Um,
Speaking of which, because we keep referencing that, Grawlix Nights was the last episode that we recorded last week.
Last week, yeah. So you guys are getting hit with you're getting doubled up. But yeah, Grawlix Nights, we had Brandon from the Technology Geek podcast on, and so that was good fun. If you haven't checked that out, you should definitely check it out. Because that's like a regular episode length.
Oh yeah, and it's
episode.
madcap.
It is.
It's madcap. I was listening to it and I'm like, I just went off on this ridiculous tangent that nobody understood.
Oh, I love the medieval Photoshop. You just put them on a rack if you want to stretch them out. It's medieval Photoshop. Yeah. That was great.
Just literally stretched them out.
That might have been before Melanie was on.
Yeah, because even though we moved to Sundays, where I'm more available, I'm still only here for half the freaking show every time.
Yeah, it's true. Oh,
well, that's because when you only have, like when it's one of your days off, then it becomes the catch-all for when things have to happen.
Yeah. Speaking of Swamp Studies coming to an end, next month will be the last Swamp Studies, and it will also be the podcast's 1-year birthday anniversary.
Woo! We need a cake.
We do need a cake.
Okay.
I made a cake or did you make the cake?
You made a cake. You were so excited. Don't you remember it was your first time making a cake?
Yeah, I made a cake for the 1-year EMG radio anniversary.
For that video?
Yeah. I don't think I'll make a video quite like that again for Grawlix.
We're going to have to Grawlix that.
Yeah. But I did make a cake for that, so we'll have to make something for this. But yeah, I will hopefully be putting together a special bonus episode, so you'll get even more bonus Grawlix next month. I believe we're going to record a regular episode like as per usual. And then I'm trying to do the whole bloopers and outtakes and
fun stuff,
clip show type thing. Yeah, fun stuff. I was trying to think of a game we could play, but I can't think of any, like, simple games that we could play in audio form. That'd be fun. But,
I know what we could do.
What?
If we could all have internet access, that is. Cards Against Humanity.
Cards, we can't do that on Grawlix.
Oh, you're right. Well,
We
no,
can't
there's
do
not...
Cards Against Humanity.
Grawlix, the whole thing, yeah.
All right.
Because even though some were... Okay,
I want to use my expansion pack.
I know, I want to use it too.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't. We're not playing that game anymore. We're playing D&D.
Then after D&D...
There is no after D&D. This campaign is going to last for 2 years.
Oh, speaking of D&D, how'd it go?
So my New Year's resolution of I want to play D&D has been, well, I don't want to say fulfilled because that sounds like we're not going to do it again.
That's it. You're done.
It's come to fruition because we played D&D. Yeah, man, it was awesome. So we did kind of a warm-up session. I'm the DM, at which, I've never really played. Like, I've been around D&D sessions, D&D games, but I've never really played. Melanie's never played. She played. We had a coworker of mine come over, and he's never played. And the three of us kind of tried to hash it out a little bit.
Sure.
Mistakes were made. Characters might have been killed. And then...
First blood was shed.
The first blood was shed, and then sloppy attempt at resurrection was made.
It was not sloppy.
It was... Resurrection should cost more than 20 gold coins. It's supposed to be like
the spell component for it is like a perfect diamond the size of your fist.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So get this though, Melanie's really good at role-playing her characters because not only did her teammate die, she chose not to like try to save him because she was like, I just met this guy on the road. I don't know him. I'm going to go after the bad guy. And the character died. And then she goes and takes him down to an apothecary to resurrect him. Even though he offered to do it for only 20 gold, she was like, no, maybe 7. I could do 7.
I tried 5. I started with 5. We got up to 7, and I'd do some errands for him.
Yeah. So
do you realize how heavy this body was? I had to haul him back from a dungeon.
So she was in character to a fault. She made it very difficult.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Awesome. No, it was good. Well, like I said, mistakes were made. I don't think I had you guys apply your modifiers to like anything. Mm-hmm. Lots of mistakes were made. But then we got together for the first official session of the campaign, and we had Jesse's brother Lou come over, and he made up a character pretty quick because Lou knows what he's doing. And that session went really well, I think. I think for the most part we did everything correct according to the rules. Mm-hmm. I tried not to railroad you guys too bad, but we still got to like the beginning point and the end point that I wanted to get to, and got little player hooks in there and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that went pretty well, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think Ian and Lou, not only did they get along, their characters got along really well.
Ian and Lou are...
Yeah. Louis was one of the hardest people to DM in the history of my gaming...
Really?
Career? I don't know what you call it, but yeah. In my storied history as a gamer, Louis is the story derailer. And you just let him do it because it's ridiculous. One time he just his character was a Wemmick, which is like a centaur if a centaur were actually a lion.
Okay.
And his character decided that they were going to storm this church where a wedding was in session, and Lou's character decided that he was now officiating.
That's awesome.
It's one of the most, I mean, it's scarred into my brain tissue now.
Oh, man.
But he's just he went through this really elaborate, this is what you have to do in order to get married. This is the ceremony. And then when they got, to the end, he just shook his head and he's like, you did it wrong. Who's going to make us all do it over again? I was like, Lou, we've done this for the last 20 minutes. No!
Wow.
That's fantastic.
No, yeah, he was pretty well behaved for us this first session. Mm-hmm. In the future, I'm just going to keep in mind the first session. It was a little bit more railroady, to kind of just get the adventure started. Mm-hmm. But
not only that, but to secure the adventure.
Yeah.
We had to make sure that they weren't going to wander off without me, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's it. Because Lou and Ian they're both kind of goofballs. So I figured they'd get along in real life, but their characters are pretty good, like, reflection of them. Mm-hmm. So their characters get along really well in game. Yeah. And then there's Melanie, who's got, like, her character's like, oh, wait, I need to go do this and this and this. So we come up with a plot device so that they can't all
What's my motivation for hanging out with you two?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We got a plot device. We literally, they're essentially literally handcuffed together.
Yeah. Which is good, because otherwise they would have gone off wandering in the freaking forest to find herbs to heal a wolf. That practically killed me, by the way.
So I guess that's a good indication. That's a good indication of how it's going to go, because already those two have a wolf. Lou really wants it, even though he failed the animal handling. So the first session, Lou's got a wolf, and I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to make this work with a character owning a wolf.
Mm-hmm. And he's not a druid, of course.
No, he's just a fighter.
Yeah.
So, no, I know. Yeah, I've been looking up rules the last couple of days, just like, oh, man. Okay, there's nothing that really covers his type of character having an animal, so I'll just have to fudge some things.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll stick around with Ian, because he's the one who did the spell on it in the first place.
It'll stick around with Ian for 24 hours.
And then it'll leave, because I'm telling this part, too.
Okay.
So the wolf comes, and we're supposed to protect this lady, so he goes over and stabs it with a dagger, and then does a spell on it to make it his wolf, like, to make it like it.
Well, he stabbed it with a dagger, and then he remembered, oh yeah, I have animal friendship spell.
Retconning his own bad decisions.
Yeah.
Oh man. But still, even so, a dagger, really?
Yeah, he's got a rapier, right?
Yeah, he's got a bow, he's got all this stuff. So I'm just gonna walk over and stab him real quick and just stand there.
You're right up in a wolf's grill at knife point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I pointed out. I was like, oh man.
That's why I lost a chunk of my shoulder, probably.
Yep. Well, that and you ran up and fell on your face.
Yeah, well, I was running up because he just stabbed him with a dagger. I was running up to try and save the situation. And then I fell on my face.
Oh, no good deed. No good deed goes unpunished. Even in D&D.
Yep. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And once again, Ian was like, at the end of the session, so, what are you guys doing, this week, Sunday? When are we going to play again? He was on it, so he's into it. He enjoyed it quite a bit, and I was like, Sunday we can't do, so we're going to play again this week. But yeah, so anyway, so we played D&D, and it was pretty awesome. And I was really worried after that first, like, warm-up session. I was like, oh, I'm not good at this. But then the second one was a lot of fun, and the first one was fun too, but the second one just went a lot better. So.
Yeah.
You're lucky you have me.
You were very helpful.
I know
you were, because I could be like, okay, hey Melanie, I don't want to tell your character what to do, but it would be really helpful if your character had a meeting to be at, towards the end of the session, blah, blah, blah. She helped me railroad it a little bit. I'm not going to do that from now on, but like I said, the first one, I was really having a hard time figuring out how to introduce character hooks and plot hooks and stuff like that. So
yeah, because if it weren't for those darn bracelets, I wouldn't hang out with those guys. That one guy took my lady from me. I mean,
so yeah, we had her character and Ian's character were trying to woo this lady, so we had them rolling charisma checks against each other. That was good fun.
And is he a sorcerer?
No, Ian is a bard.
Oh, but still, charisma is going to be his major,
Yep.
his major attribute.
Actually, we're about even. I just think I have evil dice, because you know how many, we've only played twice, and I've rolled like 8 ones.
You did roll quite a few ones, actually.
It's freaking ridiculous.
That first fight, I don't understand. Okay, I didn't have people applying their modifiers, but I also didn't have the enemies using their modifiers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was essentially everybody was just swinging at each other and missing for like 20 minutes. Nobody could hit anything. But, okay, anyway. That's D&D talk. Woo!
Yeah. All the things.
All of them. Every bit of them.
Yep.
Anything? You guys got anything before we wrap this up?
Hopefully by the next time we record, I will have a book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
There's not a whole lot to tell other than I have collected, I've been doing Tank Monkey, as a webcomic for quite a while, and, so I've collected about 2 volumes worth of material, and I'm going to be releasing my first volume of material here. It'll definitely be available by March, and probably it'll be available mid-February because the process is going pretty quickly. So this first book will be all of the story-related material. My webcomic is kind of hard to describe because it's both storyline and not even remotely storyline.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one-offs and what you'd kind of think of for webcomics, which is just kind of, a one-off strip here and there. And then I also have like a couple little storylines. So the first book is all the storyline specific stuff.
Nice. That's exciting.
Wait, so you're coming out with a book and there's no Kickstarter for us to pimp?
No. I'm going to eat that, yeah. But, part of that is I don't have anywhere to store 1,000 books
yeah, that's a good point.
If I was going to kickstart it, I'm better off buying a couple at a time.
So I'm sorry. I was going to say... You say the thing. I'm going more print on demand, but okay.
I got a block of ISBN numbers for Christmas 2 years ago, and I finally get to use them.
Oh, nice.
It's good because that's not, that's a nice little chunk of change. It was a very generous gift for Christmas, and
yeah.
I'm starting to feel bad. I was like, I haven't done anything with these. I have 10 numbers, and I've done not one book with them. So that's coming out. I'm going to use 1 of 10 numbers.
That's pretty sweet, though. That's a crazy gift. That's a great idea.
No, it is an incredible gift, and there is enough content already for a second volume. So. I won't have to wait as long for the second book. I guess part of it was I wanted to finish the storyline I was on. So the last 2 months I've really been focused on trying to end it, and finally did. And so I knew I wanted that story in the book, and it's in the book.
Awesome.
I feel bad because it's like, what was it? I was looking at it, and I think I invented Tank Monkey 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, why did it take me 5 years to put out my first book?
I can't believe I didn't think to bring that up, but yeah.
It's still in the process. Hopefully it'll be done by the next episode. I can't say for fact, but if it is, I will definitely be reiterating.
It is. His book is available, and I will have the links in the show notes. So wherever you're listening to this, there will be a link to where you can get Jesse's book, Tank Monkey Volume 1. No monkey business, but check the show notes or the description. The link is there. Check it out.
It'll be available on Amazon, but it'll be most affordable through me. Because I feel like that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm you get the most discount through me, and I will personalize it, at no additional cost. So.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Get it from me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to assign the listeners a pull list.
Oh, yeah.
Required read.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, you know what? It's free. Like all the content almost all the content that's in the book is already available online for free. But I mean, if you're paying for the book, I feel like you deserve a little bit of extra content, some exclusive commentary, some. I've done a little bit of formatting for print so that it reads better because like in the comic, in between updates, you can kind of just make a jump. It's like a scene change, but when you read it, you kind of got to go ahead and remind them like, meanwhile over here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, you sent me an early, I'm assuming you've probably worked on it a little bit since then, but you sent me an early kind of PDF proof of it, I guess.
Yeah. It's changed. There's been quite a few revisions probably since then, but I think most of the story formatting was already done at that point. So
it looks good and it flows well.
I had to cut a few. There was a handful of strips that just didn't work, so they kind of hit the cutting room floor, but all of those are still available online.
We read what you tell us to, but first you have to exercise your voice. Cast your vote on GrawlixPodcast.com and tell us what poll list pick we're reading next. Then, listen to the next episode to hear what we thought of your recommendation. Don't see your favorite comic on the list? That's okay, you can write it in. If your candidate isn't chosen, just wait. It may be the next time. Your vote stays in place until it wins. It's fun, it's interactive, it's educational. It's true democracy in action.
This is Randy. You sure do got a pretty Grawlix.
This is Melanie. And the Grawlix abides.
This is Jesse. Don't think. Feel. It's like a finger pointing away at the moon. Do not concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly Grawlix.
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To hear more, visit GrawlixPodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GrawlixPodcast and like us on Twitter at Twitter.com/GrawlixPodcast.
The computer's gonna. Randy's got to shake the mouse.
Oh!
Oh, I guess he's got to shake something.
Mouse syndrome.
He's got to go shake something else too, so it'll be a minute.
Oh!
It wasn't weird. That's a perfectly acceptable comment.
That's normal. That's life. In the city.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Randy gets shy about certain things,
This is totally going in the after credits.